shootings is nothing new. It happens in our neighborhoods.
Yes.
It's just now going into the schools and it's getting more attention. So how can we end the violence that is keeping our kids from learning?
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. When we started this project, when we first started the conversations, we were just taken aback by the frequent occurrences and the different places that they were occurring. Just even up to recently, like 3 weeks ago in South Carolina where I live, 12-year-old took the life of another 12-year-old. But before that happened, a parent came to school with a gun to try to protect his child from what he thought was some aggressive behavior. So counsel, Brother Baker, what type of systematic laws that I know you talked about, and I read a couple articles about you and how, you know, in Compton, if they just see you, you know, they might not pull you over. I think you said they might just follow you. And, you know, that following is like, you know, you can't even drive the uncomfortable feeling that you have. So what, as a community, what can we do to support the systematic changes that might bring us some relief in that area?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And, you know, and to go back to that article you're referring to, the LA Times that, you know, kind of wanted to talk about, you know, what's the kind of context to, you know, police and your perspective of them, you know. And I come from a family where my father, he retired from Compton Police for over 30 years, you know, and my uncle is currently going to retire another year or 2 years from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's, you know. And so, you know, when we talk about our relationships, you know, the Black and brown community, the marginalized communities that we live in, and us, you know, and our relationship to the police, it varies, but we all have a common denominator of when we see the police, we can be doing nothing wrong and feel guilty. And that's because the system, you know, perpetuates that upon us, you know, and there's systemic racism that perpetuates, you know, through all systems. You know, I'm similar to Ms. Lewis, although I'm in early education policy, I do a lot of policy development recommendations for our board of supervisors to take action on. But I mean, it really begins with how are we investing in our children, you know? Every day, I mean, just this past week I was in Sacramento and I was telling our legislators with the amount of surplus budget we have, even in the state of California alone, there is no reason why, or there should be no excuse to why we aren't investing in our children right now. You know, it starts there. It really starts in the zero, and I'm talking about not even just the, you know, K through 12, I'm talking 0 to 5. Okay? That's the policy I'm with, right? And it's our children, Black and brown, that are disproportionately unable to have access. Parents are not able to, you know, and it's really disproportionately saddening that our women of color are not able to return to the workforce because there's inaccessibility to childcare. When they are into these types of environments, most times they're trying to move us into these environments. How many of us have seen these new schools that come up that look like prisons? You know, like all gray and all this stuff. And we make the you know, the policy asks that, you know, we have to think about the fact that we need environments for our children to be able to, although we're learning, it should not feel like a prison. It shouldn't feel like solitary confinement. It should feel like an actual place I want to come and learn. You know, there shouldn't be any reason why I wake up in the morning as a child and not want to go and learn. You know, it's because of the environments they're placed in and the disproportional amount of lack of investments that haven't been made in our communities. While communities, you know, 20, 30 miles, you know, going, you know, whether we're going up to Beverly Hills or even to, you know, the beach areas where they have those investments, you know, and we don't have those investments. And so, you know, in terms of what we can do, it's really making sure that we are always using, you know, this is a call to action. I'm so glad that our director said, you know, at the end of this, we should all be feeling upset. We should all be feeling a bill to call to action, right? We should have these type of discussions, but how does it inform our work we do moving forward? And what we need to do moving forward is continue to be engaged, hold our legislators accountable, hold our community leaders that are able to impact policy accountable. Because the resources are there. We just need the right people at the table to tell people where they need to go.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate that. It's not enough to be upset. You have to get involved. And once you get involved, you need to stay involved. Because change doesn't happen overnight. You have to stay the course. Continuing with this brown girl magic. Because if it is love,
what does she say? My mind.
Miss London, you have no idea how much of a heartstring that you pulled on to me when you mentioned the accident. And I remember my brother calling me. He was like, Joe, all my kids, we're in the hospital. We have to recover from these. Somebody just not doing too much, and no fault of your own. Somebody being extra. So, London, high school, senior. You're in this film. You've seen some behaviors over the years that were unbecoming. And just as a woman of African American descent, how do you feel your voice is received, or is it even heard in these type of situations?
I guess I love Black women, hands down. There's no question about that. I love you guys. But I guess it's hard to speak for the entire people, because I have carried myself in a different way that many other people have, and naturally people want to label Black women as ghetto and ratchet, and then we see people of a lighter complexion mocking us, but literally they want to be us. It's not mocking, they're trying to copy us and then degrade us for this, and it's because we're amazing and they can't outdo the dare, and I feel as though Black women in any kind of situation, speaking up is just so hard, because you feel like as soon as you say something, if you're passionate about something, you're loud because you're passionate, you're ratchet, you're ghetto. What even are these labels, Why are these labels? Because we're angry. We have every right to be angry, what I mean? And as a Black woman, I feel like and I'm a proud Black woman, and I'm able to speak up. I'm my dad, my whole family. I have 4 siblings, and trying to speak up over them, there's a lot of talking going on. So you gotta inject yourself, and interject. And I do that, and I think that it's my job to speak up for us, because I know that no one will unless it's us.
And we're all to continue to have that same energy. Don't be afraid to speak up.
It's hard though, because even our Black brothers, they don't even want to hear us out, Sometimes they don't want to hear us out, They want women of the lighter skin complexion that are acting just like us, Why? Because the system told us that the lighter complexion is safer, it's cleaner, it's more like upkept, more put together. Why? You made us stay out. Y'all took us from our home and made us go outside and work, and you're gonna call us dirty, You've done enough. We have to stop this generational trauma, It started years ago, before we were even thought about, Before we had everybody working together, before there was unity, it was us at the bottom, And in our heads, unfortunately, in our parents' heads, as well that's still pushing us down as kids, you know? It starts